Hello everyone, my name is Karl. As you maybe know if you watched some of our battle reports so far, I am going to go up against Tom and his Tzeentch. I am playing Ogor Mawtribes this battle report, and I am playing the Prophet battle formation to get +1 to cast. The reason I played that formation, I mean, you could also argue to have +1 damage on the charges with the big 3 monsters, but I think overall +1 casting is better, my personal preference maybe, mostly because the manifestation lore is so good and the Emerald Life Swarm is really good in this list. To heal 3 to a Stonehorn or a Mournfang throughout the game is just fantastic. So I think +1 to cast is really nice. Then I'm going with a Mawpit. The Mawpit is just insane. Every game I played it does so much damage because in both hero phases I put my Butcher there, it's 18 inches, you know, it just keeps on doing so much damage throughout the game. So it's way better than the old with the other one for 1 extra cast, in my opinion. So my general's regiment, I have my Stonehorn on Frostlord, he's my general, and then I have a Huskard on Stonehorn as the other hero in the regiment, and then he has a unit of 2 Mournfangs. It's a solid regiment. I can take -1 to attack sometimes if I'm going against like a really alpha strike list, like Slaves of Darkness or something. Could be nice with -1 attack. But most likely I'm going with the new priced beasts. It's so good on Stonehorns with an all-out attack on another Stonehorn. I mean, it's 2 Stonehorns a turn. They can have +1 to hit. It's very effective, especially if you go against armies that have a lot of minus to hit. It's really impactful. I just brought the list to a tournament last weekend or 2 weekends ago, and I went 3-0. It's a 1-day tournament with this list, and Price Beast was just fantastic. It did so much damage throughout the game. Did I spike my dice through the tournament? Probably quite a bit. They did a lot of damage, but yeah, really nice with the Price Beast. So I would say 9 out of 10 times I choose that on a guard. Other regiment, I have a Huskard on Stonehorn. He has 3 units of 2 Mournfangs in there. The reason I split them all up into MSU is because they're just so good at being screens, taking flanks, doing all the scoring basically, doing all the battle tactics. They also are quite tanky and they also hit hard. It's 15 attacks, it's 4s and 2s, Ren 1, damage 2, and Ren 2 on the Mournfangs against cavalry. So they can hit quite hard for sure. And then in my last, and also the reason is MSU, 4 of them, is because they do -1 to shooting. So to be able to screen out -1 to wound against shooting to all my big monsters is really nice, and not just have them reinforce so they cover less area basically. And then my last regiment, I have 1 Butcher and 4 Ironguts. They are almost MVP in all my games, honestly. Like, they're so good. They're not that scary looking in the list. Like, when I deploy and I go against someone, they see all these big 3 monsters and they know all the run and charge potentials. And then there's some sneaky Ironguts there in the middle that basically kill everything they touch. And they have double activation, so you can do some sneaky pile-in shenanigans and reach something in the back. They're just super good. If you get the Blood Feast off with the spell lore, Ogre spell lore, get 1 extra attack as well. It's very nice. And yeah, it's a super good list. In the tournament I played against Tzeentch, I played against Seraphon, and I played against Nurgle. It worked really well against everything. I struggled most against Nurgle because they were a bit tanky. I feel like the hardest counter we have is where there's a lot of -1 to hit and wound, but now with the change to the big monsters with their mortal damage impacts, it's not as bad if the army that you're going against are relatively squishy, because they do a lot of damage. I mean, you do 10 plus mortal damage easily in a game, like in a charge phase, not a game, before you even start swinging. So it's a very nice change. Is it a 5-0 list in a tournament? I don't know, potentially. I haven't played it as much. I played it 4 times, and I feel like 4-1 for sure. 5-0, maybe. It's very strong. I feel like it depends a little bit on how the game pans out and what you're facing. I feel like really heavy shooting list, I will struggle even if it's -1 to wound. Or something that is really tanky, like 3+ saves and stuff, is a struggle, because we don't have super loss. I mean, I do have Rend 2 on the Stonehorns and Ironguts, but they have to get in. So I feel like something like that, I struggle a bit. Every other army, it's okay. Because you have that once per turn heal in the end of everything that is in combat or fought. So it's, yeah. It's just overall, I'm very happy with this list. I think it's really good. If you're planning on taking Majority Beast Claw into the tournament, I feel like look into this and see what you feel. Have a play with it and have a feel. It's requires not super lots of skills. It's quite straightforward, but very, very fun and a very solid list. With that said, thanks for listening to my list review. Hand it over to my opponent, Tom. So stick around and listen to his list. See you soon.
Hey everyone, my name's Tom, and today I'm bringing the Tzeentch. A bit of a meme list, I suppose. It's a list that I've thrown together because I love chariots in Warhammer in general, and I also think that the Fate Skimmer, now that it's at 140 points, is probably one of the best units in the Tzeentch book, in my opinion. But it comes with the caveat that I am running a lot of auxiliaries today. So I'll run you through it a little bit. I'm playing the Wyrdflame host, which means that any of my opponent's units that are burning are -1 to wound me. I have my General's Regiment, which is a Magister. He is accompanied by a 20-man unit of Tzaangor. Then I have 4 more regiments, and in those, it's just single chariots. So I have 4 chariots that are just alone in a regiment, and then every other unit in this army is an auxiliary. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 auxiliary units. The reason why is because if you want to play more than 5 heroes, you have to go auxiliaries, and the Fate Skimmers are heroes. So I have 9 of them plus my Magister, so I have 10 heroes in the list. So I have to be playing auxiliaries to be able to run anything like this. And I think it was good exercise to see if auxiliary giving that extra command point is actually as punishing as you think. I'm still unsure after my experience so far. My heroic trait and artifact are both on my Magister. So he has +1 to cast, and then he also has the ability to re-roll one of my Destiny dice in my hero phase once per turn. So I can hopefully change some of those 1s into something a little bit more useful. Because I'm not playing a lot of change, I don't have the ability to spend Destiny dice that aren't that useful to bring back units. So having the ability to re-roll the bad ones is quite useful and nice. To then run you through the spell laws and then a little bit about why I think the list ticks. So the spell laws I'm playing is the Law of Fate, I believe it's called. And that means that the unlimited spell that's available to me is the Bolt of Tzeentch, which is an 18-inch range, casts on a 6, and does D3 mortal wounds. As I said earlier, I've got 10 wizards in this list, so I can do that 10 times effectively. So 10 D3 mortals going out potentially if I get the casting rolls that I need. And then for my manifestation law, the other spells, sorry, I should mention, are I can summon the Chaos Spawn in combat with a unit if I kill a model with the spell. And then I also have the teleport, so I can teleport one of my units anywhere on the table 9 inches away from my opponent. My manifestation lore I'm bringing is the machineries, and it includes the swords, the cogs, and the scythe. So there's a bit of reason why I want these. The obvious one, or most obvious one, is the cogs. All of my Fate Skimmers are wizards, so the cogs then gives all of them, if they're wholly within 12 of the cogs, -1 to be hit from shooting and combat. It's very, very strong. The swords is a nice damage piece, just goes in and does 12 attacks that do crit mortals, really nice. And then lastly, the scythe is a bit of double turn protection. I am in 99% of games going to be going first with this list because I will have more drops than my opponent and they will give me the turn. So what that means is I can set up the scythe and hopefully it screens out a little bit because it can move in my opponent's turn. I can deny charges then. So it means that hopefully it keeps one of my screens alive an extra turn. So if I get doubled, I still have a screen up. That's the idea with the scythe. We'll see if it comes up in this game. So I think that is everything about the list on the surface. I can explain a little bit about why this list. So the main reason, or the main thing that this list is built around is the end of game ability, or end of turn ability, I should say, for the Fate Skimmers. So at the end of every turn, mine and my opponent's, each chariot can pick 3 burning enemies that are within 12 inches of them, and each of them take a mortal wound. And there's no limit to that. So if I have, best case scenario, 3 burning enemy units and all 9 chariots are within range of all 3, very, very unlikely to happen, then it's 9 mortal wounds to each of the 3 units, plus the burning damage on top of that. So it can get quite oppressive. I played this at the same tournament that Karl mentioned last weekend. I won 2 games and I lost one of my games. The 2 that I won pretty convincingly because of that end of turn mortal wound damage was just tearing through units and they couldn't quite kill the chariots fast enough before they could get the damage out. The way that I apply burning is in the shooting phase as per normal if I do spell damage or shooting attacks, but the chariots also can move over units and on a 3+ apply the burning as well. So it's quite good if my opponent pushes close to me. I can basically apply burning to 50% of the opponent's army and then start throwing out mortal wounds. The Kyrics are in here as a screen, but they're also in here to apply burning in turn 1. I will be going first in most of my games, which means that I'm going to be outside of 18 from my opponent and can't apply a Bolt of Tzeentch. So that means that I have the Kyrics to move up 5, 18-inch shooting. Hopefully I can plink a wound off of 1 unit and start getting the burnings applied. You ultimately want to be putting burning on every turn if you can, regardless of the chariots moving. The chariots as well, the reason why I think they're so efficient for their points now is because they're effective in every phase. In the hero phase, they can cast a spell and do some damage. Then they move 12 inches, so they're no slouch in terms of scoring battle tactics or getting on objectives, things like that. They can also apply the burning in the movement phase. Then in the shooting phase, they have 3 damage D3 shots. In the combat phase, they have 6 rend 1 damage 1 attacks and 3 rend 1 damage D3 attacks, so they can do a bit of damage in the combat phase. And then, even in the end of turn, they're doing their mortal wound AoE. So they can be really effective in every phase. I've considered playing more chariots, but 9 is thematic. And also the Tzaangors I've been finding are really nice for, again, double turn protection. In the games that I've done well with this list so far, I've thrown them into combat turn 1, tried to take out as much as I can with the Tzaangor unit, and then it means that my opponent has to deal with them in their first turn, and then in their second turn, if they double me, they've got the Kyrics in front of all the chariots that they're going to go into. Then it's my turn and I can start applying burning, and that's the theory behind it anyway. Lastly, a little bit about this matchup. Me and Karl have talked through this matchup a little bit in our heads after the tournament that we went to, and I think that I'm not favoured, and there's a couple of reasons for that. I think the once per game heal that is available to ogres is a really good counter to this list, specifically because in my opponent's turn when they use it, it removes the burning before my burning can do anything, before my end of turn does anything. So if my opponent has 4 burning units all in range of the chariots, they can heal all 4, and then I don't get to apply burning and I don't get to apply the chariot damage. So it can be really brutal. The other problem that I'm going to face is my spawn, my Chaos Spawn. There's not really any 1 wound or 2 wound units in Karl's army, so I'm not going to be able to dump a Chaos Spawn in the middle of his army and try and shut down movement and charges with that. And lastly, Ogres hit real hard. They do impact mortals, they fight really well. My biggest hope is that Karl's mortal impacts is low, so that he has to actually attack into me. Because with combination of the Wyrdflame host and the cogs, I'm hopefully on my chariots at least -1 to hit and -1 to wound, which can be really swingy into ogres. Suddenly they're on like 5s and 3s default, and that can be quite punishing. So we'll see how it goes. It's pretty much been down to that turn 2 priority roll for me so far. If I go first, but then manage to win the turn 2 prio, I can capitalize on it quite well. Usually I can apply burning to everything and then really start the damage ticking. But if I get doubled into turn 2 and for whatever reason I can't shut down their turn 2 charges with like the pendulum or the spawn, then it means that I'm going into my bottom of turn 2 with like 4 chariots left alive, which is what happened in my 3rd game at the tournament. We'll see how it goes. I think overall this game is going to be pretty fast. Yes. Lastly, I guess, tournament-wise, I think this list is probably like a 4-1 list. I think it's going to really struggle to win a tournament 5-0 because it just has bad matchups. Anything that can heal is going to be rough. And there's a lot of armies out there that can do a lot of damage, and fight twice is also a pain. So I think 4-1 is pretty doable though. 3-2, 4-1. That about sums it up. Hope you enjoy the battle. Make sure to like and comment on this video if you have any feedback for us, but also if you have any questions about the army. We're very active in the comments, so we'll answer any questions that you might have. If you want to delve even deeper, then you can join our Discord channel and we'll answer any questions there as well if you want to discuss our thought processes even further on the lists that we're playing. I think that sums it up, so we'll see you in the game.